Hello everyone, Dave N6AFV here, and this is going to be part 2 of the video series on using the advanced firmware features in the latest CS-580 update. So, I'll apologize for not getting it done earlier. I've been busy with other things including family visit travel. I got a new radio that I have been spending a lot of time fiddling with and trying new things. And I just got distracted. So, water under the bridge, let's move forward. I'm assuming that you've already seen part 1, which tells you how to update your CS-580 firmware to the latest version, which has the advanced features. So if you haven't seen part 1, you need to go back and watch that and get your radio up to date. Assuming that you have seen part 1, hook your radio up to the computer, get your CPS software up and running, because you're going to need to do that to take advantage of some of the features that are available in this new firmware update. So I'll just sit here for a minute and wait for you to get everything hooked up, and then we'll move forward. Okay, so let's get going here. Here's the CPS. Now, one of the things that particularly the advanced features like to do is they use some of the general settings here. And one of those is, you'll notice where it says enhanced scanning right here. You notice there is a receive to transmit offset. And what the system pretty much assumes is that when you're using those features that you're going to be talking to a repeater. And that's why it asks you for a scan offset. Now, there are ways of working around that, but for the moment we'll leave it at 5 megahertz because we'll assume that for the most part that you're going to be working with a DMR repeater or an analog repeater that has a 5 megahertz offset. If the offset in your part of the world or your part of the country is different than that, then you'll have to change it, obviously. Where I live, the standard offset is pretty much always plus 5 megahertz. But there are areas where it's just the opposite, where the transmit is negative 5 megahertz or negative 1.6 or whatever. So you need to set that up, but be aware that if you, for example, if you're scanning and you want to scan to pick up a simplex transmission, that there's some additional work that you're going to have to do to get that going. Okay, so make sure that that's set up. Now then, the other thing that's really important is to realize that when you use the enhanced features, that if you want to save a channel that you found or a channel setup that you found, you have to save it in an existing zone. So if you're on a zone that's already filled up with contacts, you're going to be kind of stuck because you'll either have to get rid of one of the contacts that you already have, or you won't have any place to put it. So here's what I would recommend. When we start looking at the channels, or most people would call this a zone. You notice we have a bunch of zones here, and here at the very bottom I have a zone. It's called scan saved, and that's just what I call it, but it's something for using the scanning functions to hold things. I have a digital basic. Now, if you look at digital basic, I just tell it it's a digital channel. The receive and transmit frequencies are identical. There's no transmit contact. There's basically nothing in here specifically for a particular contact. Now, if you go to the analog basic channel, same thing. I say it's an analog channel, wide bandwidth. Receive and transmit frequencies are identical. There's no encoding in there. It's just a basic channel. And the reason why is when you start to scan, you're going to want to select either a digital or an analog channel, because that's what the radio will listen for. And I know I wish that you could just tell it just whatever comes up and automatically switch over, but it does not seem to do that. So you have to look for one or the other. So once you've done that, you save that to your radio. Mine has already been saved to my radio, so I'm good to go. And then we'll be able to use the enhanced features a little more easily. So go ahead, save that to your radio, and then we'll start working on how to actually use those features. There's one more thing I should have mentioned previously. When you go to your CPS, there is a setting called button settings, and that allows you to set up how you want your scan, not your scan, your special purpose buttons to go. Now, if you take a look at the radio, see if I can do this here. There's two buttons. There's a lower button right here. Then there's one, can you guys see that? There's a button here, and then there's a button here. Okay, the lower button is button 2, the upper button is button 1. Now these can be programmed for specific things. Now in my case, I have button 1, a short press, which is just a momentary press of it. That's set up for enhanced parameters. If I give it a long press, that will bring me into the enhanced monitor mode. Button 2, which is a lower button, a short press just turns the normal scan mode off and on, where you have a scan list programmed for a particular channel. It'll start scanning that scan list. If I do a long press, it'll do the enhanced scanning, which covers a particular frequency range. This might also be a good time to talk about and maybe just refresh your memory about what's the difference between enhanced parameters and enhanced monitor. Enhanced parameters allows you to put in essentially all the information that you would need for a particular channel, whether it's a DMR channel or an analog channel. If your radio is already on a digital channel, then when you activate enhanced parameters, it's going to come up with the options that allow you to enter the particular parameters you want, which is transmit and receive frequencies, color code, and time slot. If you're on an analog channel, if you enter the enhanced parameters mode, it will allow you to obviously select transmit and receive frequencies and encoding and decoding tones. So if you know a repeater's characteristics, if you go to area and say you use an application like rFinder or RepeaterBook, and you find a repeater that you like, you can take the enhanced parameters mode and literally enter those in, and then you can save those into memory with a title of your choosing, and now it's saved in the memory of the radio. Next time you turn the radio on, it will be available to you. Now the enhanced monitor mode is a little bit different. With enhanced monitor, you have it on a known good frequency. Let's say that there's a repeater in your area. You're not sure what talk groups they have, especially if it's a Brandmeister repeater. I'm sorry, if it's a C-bridge repeater, because those talk groups are fixed. By going to setting up your enhanced monitor for a particular channel pair, once you activate enhanced monitor, it will listen to any traffic that it hears on the repeater. And once that's done, then when a transmission comes in and you see its particular talk group, you can lock that in and then you can save that as a channel in the memory. So that's the basic difference between the two. So we will talk about that a little bit more as we continue working with the radio. We're going to start out with the enhancements to the advanced scan mode. Right now the radio is set on the channel that I put into my CPS called Digital Basic. And when I press do a long press on the lower button, it brings us into the scan mode. Now you'll notice there is a minimum, a maximum, spacing, and a save mode. Minimum and maximum are pretty much self-explanatory. As you scroll through these, you can change them to anything that you want. Manual and automatic. In the manual mode, when you want to save the channel information, it will ask you if you want to save it in the current channel or in the next free channel. If you're in the automatic mode, it will save it in the next free channel slot. So that's why we recommend setting yourself up with some blank zones so that you can then scan and save the channels if you want to. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start the scan, and I have a radio set up so that it's on the local, our local talk group on a local repeater. So let's go ahead and start that.
Scanning on.
Okay, now you'll notice it stopped at 442.475. Oh, and I didn't hit the lock button fast enough. It'll pause for a short period of time, but if you don't do anything, then it continues to scan. So I'm gonna hit the button again. Let me see, it comes around here. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to hit lock. I'm going to press save. And it's going to ask me, do I want free or current? I'm going to select free because I want to put in the next available. And then it asks me for a channel name. And in this case, I'm just going to call it, let's see, I'm just going to call it LOC. I'm going to press OK. It says save successfully. Now if I press continue, it'll go back to scanning. But for right now, I'm going to go to back. And I'm going to show you that the channel's there. So there's digital basic, analog basic, and there's our local channel. And if I key up, I get the tone that says that I'm on, and you can hear my voice coming from the other radio. So that's how you use the advanced features in the scan mode. Now, one caveat. I have noticed that if you try and save a private call rather than a group call, it will not save the information correctly. And I've done a series of experiments to find out exactly what the deal is, but it seems like if it's a private call, the firmware does not want to save the transmit contact information correctly, and that may be because a private call is typically to a single DMR ID, not to anybody, and so the firmware may be saying, well, if you're not that ID, you can't save that information. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to write to Jerry at Connect Systems and see if he can find out exactly what the deal is on that. Anyhow, that's how you use the enhanced scan added features in the firmware. Before we go into the next enhanced modes, let me just show you really quick saving some channel information on analog. So I'll go ahead and do the same thing. You'll notice I am on my analog basic channel, which is just a dummy channel, but it's set up with analog for analog FM. So I'll start the scan. Okay, now then, looking at it, we have the same type of deal. We can give it a scan, start and stop. In this case, I'm going to start at 441.000, and then I'm going to finish at I believe it's 442 is what I want. No, yeah, 442.000, because the analog transceiver I'm going to be using is on a 441.250. Same spacing, and I'm going to change the save mode to manual. And now I'm going to start. So I will key up. And here I am. You can hear me. I don't know if you can hear my voice coming out of the radio, but it is N6 Alpha Foxtrot Victor testing. Okay, now I press the lock button, and I have the option to save, which I'll do. So I'm going to save. I want to save it in the next free channel. A channel name, I'm just going to put it as the 441. Oh dear. I keep forgetting I need to change. I need to change that to there we go, to numbers. 441 250. We'll just use that. Okay, now it's saved successfully. So let's go to continue and back. Okay, now I'm going to click up here to where it says, whoop, 441.250. Now you notice it has the correct transmit and receive information, again, because we've told it that there's a 5 megahertz offset in between transmit and receive. But now when I key up, you notice you don't hear any return signal or anything else. Well, why is that? The reason why is because it has the channel information. It does not have the CTCSS information. Now, to fix that, we're going to talk about the next enhanced parameter, which is what's called the enhanced parameters mode. And in enhanced parameters, we're going to be able to resolve this little deal. So, to get to that, enhanced parameters is a short press on the top button, like so. Now you notice that it has a transmit and receive, and keep in mind, I'm still on that same channel, that same analog channel. It shows a transmit and receive, but it also has an encode and a decode setting. Now we're going to go to encode, and in the case of this particular repeater, I'm sorry, keep bumping that around. The encoding is 123, so I'll select that, and I'll just start stepping up here. $123, I'm going to lock that, and it's going to ask me again, do I want to save it? And I do want to save it. I'm going to save it in the current channel. I'm not going to put a new one, so I'll save it in the current channel. It saves successfully. I'm going to go back. Now then, when I key this up, now you hear the repeater answering back because I have given it the correct PL frequency. So that's, I wish that the CS firmware could somehow listen to the received signal and extract the PL tone. It may even be that some repeaters do not retransmit the PL tone whenever they're sending the transmit signal back, in which case you're going to have to enter it manually. So I'm just letting you know. However, it does bring me to the next section about the next enhanced parameters mode, which is what we're demonstrating here. And what this allows you to do is to take like an existing channel. So I'm going to go back here to analog basic.
1, 2.
So I'm on analog basic. Now then, if I press the upper button, short press here, now you notice that it shows a transmit of 400, receive 400, which I don't really want. But if I know the frequency and the PL tone of the repeater, I can just enter that. So in this case, using the example we just did, I can go here and I can say, I want to encode 123, and I want a transmit frequency of 446,250, and a receive frequency of 441,250. I want to just double check and make sure that's actually what I'm trying to, yes, 441,250. Okay, now then, I can lock that, and it'll say, do I want to save it? I want to save it. I'm going to put it in the next free channel. So when it does that, it asks me for a name. So I'm just going to call it, oh, let's call it TEST, and we'll call it test 2. Okay. Now then, I can go back, and I'll select
4, 5.
test 2. Now when I key up, I should hear the repeater answer me back. And there we go. So it's as simple as that. So the enhanced parameters allows you to enter the details of a known repeater system and make that a new channel, or overwrite an existing one. And again, want to emphasize, that's why it's so good. Oop, doing repeater ID here. Let me turn him off. That's why it's so good to have, like I say, a couple of blank zones that you can use to add channels later if you want to, because that way you'll have plenty of room to add additional channels. Now, using this in digital mode is basically the same type of thing. If I go back here, I'm going to go back to my digital basic. I'm going to do a short press Now this gives me the information that I need, or it gives me a spot where I can change it to my a DMR radio. So I'm going to use a repeater that we have been using, in which case that's going to be the one that we use for the other demos. And that's got a color code of 3. So I'm going to go up to 3. It's on slot 1. The type is, in this case, I'm going to put in the parrot so I can tell it I want a private call. I'm going to come down here, and that's going to be 9990. That is the talk group for the parrot. The transmit frequency is going to be 447.475, and the receive frequency is going to be 442.475. Okay, I'm going to lock that, and it'll ask me if I want to save it. I do want to save it. I want to save it in a free channel, and I'm going to call this test 3. So TEST, select numbers, and that'll be test 3. I'm going to say OK, and it'll say that it's saved successfully. So now I should be able to go back, and now when I key up N6AFV, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
N6AFV, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So now I've successfully programmed in a new channel for a new DMR channel into the radio. Now the final thing that's left is what's called enhanced monitor mode, and that is that's something that if you have an existing repeater channel, you can activate the enhanced monitor mode, and what it does, it listens to all the traffic that comes out of that repeater, regardless of talk group or time slot or anything else. And in a case like that, it's a situation where, again, with Seabridge repeaters, they have a fixed talk group list. And even among that fixed list, some will be what are called static and some will be dynamic. Now, in the case of a Brandmeister repeater, virtually anything can come out of a Brandmeister repeater. In other words, the talk groups are not limited by what's programmed into the local repeater. They're basically, when you transmit on a particular talk group, that will tell the repeater that you want to listen on that talk group, and it will become active typically for some period of time. I guess 15 minutes is pretty standard, but to activate that on my radio, I do a long press of the... Okay, so now the radio is listening for any traffic on that repeater. So what I'm going to do here is...
Yes, I sure did. And let's see, who's there? Rob.
Okay, I'm going to lock this. Just so happens that somebody talked there. Now you notice that it shows the user ID, which in this case is one of the local hams. And having it shows the user ID, it shows the color code being used, it shows the time slot that it's a group call, and it shows the transmit contact. Now that transmit contact is one that I have already stored in the radio. That's the local Sierra Nevada Amateur Radio Society talk group. If you don't have a particular transmit contact stored in your radio, then it will just show the number of the talk group. But in any case, again, this gives me the opportunity to save that. So if I go save, it's going to say, do I want free or current? Well, I'll put in the next free one, and I will just say that that is the SNARS talk group. Okay, S-N-A-R, SNARS, and I say OK. And now that is saved successfully. So if I go back and I scroll up through here, I should have a talk group that's called snars, and there it is.
The following week, I've got only one thing one day.
And you notice that they're still talking on that group. I'll turn the volume back down. But you've also noticed that in this particular zone, I have mixed both analog and digital, which is perfectly acceptable. As I said, the particular zone that I developed in the CPS had a basic digital and a basic analog channel. However, you could have a zone that's just you only want to use for digital contacts, or digital channels rather, and another zone that you only want to use for analog channels. It's up to you. But that's basically how they work. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to go into exhaustive detail and show every possible combination, but I think you've seen enough that you can take your radio, update the firmware, and start using the additional features that the enhanced modes offer. So good luck, and if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below. I try to answer questions as soon as I can. If the comments are something that requires an answer, I will. If they're just telling me what a dope I am, I probably won't answer you. I have days like that too. Anyway, 73. Hey, before I go, I just wanted to say thank you for those of you who have viewed and subscribed to my channel. And I would like to apologize. The production quality of this video was not as good as I would like. Just been a lot of stuff going on. I had to do multiple retakes of certain sections, and after a while I just I wanted to get it done so that I could get it posted. So if it seems a little bit awkward compared to some of the other videos or some of the more professional ones you see from other people, hopefully the information presented is something that will be useful to you and will allow you to enjoy your radio more. So at any rate, I just want to say, since it's nearing the middle of December, and I won't be making any more videos for a little while anyway, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and may God bless you and your families as you enter the new year. So once again, 73 from Dave, N6AFV. And oh, by the way, the next time I do a video, I will probably, most likely, have a new call. And when that happens, I will change the channel name, my YouTube channel name, and I'll do a short video explaining why I got the new call. See you later. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please click the like button. And if you'd like to get updates whenever new videos are posted, please subscribe to the channel. And whenever I pop something new on there, you'll get an email that tells you that it's available to watch. 73 from Dave, N6AFV.